Hi Ross, how are you?
Hi Ashley, good thanks, how are you?
Very well, thank you. I haven't seen you for a little while, so it's nice to,
I know.
see everyone on this call, to be honest. Ross, let's chat about the last couple of weeks. Have you had some time off yourself? What have you been
Yeah,
up to?
yeah, I had a little bit of time off last week, which was quite nice. Not the full week, but just a couple of days just to try and reset. And I think good to get away and reflect and get some energy to go into this next block.
Yeah, so how do you reflect on the last block? How would you sum that up?
I think inconsistent is probably the word that springs to mind. Like, there's some really good stuff, and I think what we're really proud of is we showed some really good resilience in the block to sort of come back from adversity or keep ourselves right in a contest. And I think every game we're right in it until the last minute or the last 10 minutes. We've given ourselves a chance of winning, even though for some periods of the game we haven't had momentum or haven't executed what we wanted to do. And I think obviously apart from Gloucester, where they probably ran away with it in the last 10-15 minutes, we still felt with that amount of time to go, we still had a really good opportunity to do something special. So I think that's a real sign of the group's resilience, and to beat Ealing in the way we did, to come back and give ourselves a chance of beating Exeter with the last kick of the game, and also Sale with the last 5 minutes in a really challenging conditions. We gave ourselves an opportunity to win. We just weren't quite good enough on the day to nail that opportunity. And I think that's something we can take a lot of confidence from in that. And I think how we sort of review it and go through it is, what are those things that are going to tip those margins our way?
Yeah, what are they?
I think, look, we've turned the ball over a bit too much. In the games, like we started to see a real shift. That probably saw that early on. You put your defence under so much pressure if you're going to turn the ball over a lot, and that's something that we've spoken about as a group, that turnover rate is too high, particularly in and around the middle of the pitch. So just being more effective in there, because if you're giving the ball away in that area, you take away your attacking opportunity to get in the 22 where we believe we're really strong, and you also give the opposition an opportunity to kick the ball into your 22 and now attack you from mauls and all that sort of thing. And especially with the weather the way it's been in the January-February block, hasn't been the most free-flowing rugby. So that's something we've sort of spoken about as a group, and how we do that is obviously nuanced, but that's sort of the overarching picture for us.
Thank you for sharing that, Ross. And Aoife was just saying how you're a different team almost to how you started this season. Would you agree with that, and how do you think that you might be different?
Yeah, I would agree. I think we've grown as a group. I think, World Cup reintegration and all that sort of thing, it was a new group coming together, like some challenges around injuries and all that sort of stuff, and the team is constantly changing, so to build cohesion becomes incredibly difficult. And I think the group, and the leadership group in particular, is sort of really taken a hold of it. And look, we wouldn't be in the contest if we weren't, the group weren't leading it really well on the pitch, and you're never going to have the full momentum in the game, but to be able to go down and come back up and show resilience, or go ahead and stay ahead, is something that I think the group's grown in and done well in. And if you'd have said to me at the end of the block, like, is it how you want it to go? Not every facet, but I think to be in the contest in every game with sometimes minutes to spare, that shows a lot of competitive spirit, a lot of competitive fight.
I don't want to hog the whole conversation, but I just have a couple more questions. And one of them is off the weather. Oh, excuse my dog. One of them is off the weather conversation. It's looking like it's going to be dry on Saturday, and you're going to be at home. And apparently you're going to have over 3,000 people in the crowd, which it's got all the ingredients for a good day, hopefully, for Quins.
Definitely. Look, it's something that, every game is a big game, and I think you try and just take it each game as it comes. But yeah, it's nice that the sunshine's finally might show, and actually the style of game changes slightly. I think that's something we've spoken about in the January block, like your kicking game and your set piece becomes really important. And as the weather improves, actually your running and attacking game starts to shift more towards that. So look, obviously we're not in the clear yet with the weather and things like that, but it's something that, you know, you bend and flex to the conditions, and if it then starts raining at the weekend, you have to adapt. But look, it's definitely something we're really looking forward to. Saracens have been really good in the Premiership, really, really strong. You've seen how they've played this season, so we're under no illusions of the challenge, but it's an exciting opportunity for us.
Yeah, we haven't seen you win at home since last year. Can't believe it feels like a long time ago. It wasn't that long ago, but it would be important for you guys to have a win at home in front of your fans, especially against Saracens. It would mean a lot to you guys, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's winning every game is what you want to do, and obviously a local London derby is also a nice one to be involved in.
Thanks, Ross.
Thank you.
Andy, all yours.
Hi Ross.
Hey Andy, how are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you very much.
Good.
You're steeped in this rivalry. How excited are you about this week?
Yeah, look, excited. You know, you can't hide behind the fact that, you know, it's a local London derby that I was lucky to play in a few myself, and they're always really, really exciting games. You try and just make sure that you focus on the performance and don't get too carried away with sort of the occasion, because actually you've just got to go out there and execute your skills and your game plan and things like that. But yeah, it's definitely an enjoyable occasion to play in.
Obviously, it's a long time since the first meeting earlier in the season away. How do you feel your team's changed, both in terms of personnel and form coming into this one?
Yeah, look, we've welcomed back a few injuries. We've also picked some up along the way, and it's that kind of thing. I think, look, we just didn't play very well when we went there. We just didn't perform. Saracens were excellent on the day, and they put us under loads of pressure. And I think that was the one performance this season I was genuinely really disappointed about. Every other performance, I've gone, well, actually, there's some real positives to take from this. There's some work-ons to take from that. That one was just like, you know, we weren't at the races on the day, and it was really disappointing. So, look, that's in the past. That we can focus on is this fixture, and I think you don't want to focus too much on what's happened, because what's done is done. But again, it's an exciting opportunity to just go and put a performance out there.
And given how the table's looking at the moment, it's very tight, isn't it, for the race for the top four? I mean, there's so much to fight for, isn't there?
Yeah, look, it's been an incredible season for the neutral, you know, like generally speaking, like the games have been really, really tight. They could go either way with sort of a decent chunk of time to go, and that's, as I said, the most pleasing thing for our side is we've been in every contest apart from that Sarries game, really. At the start of the season, every other game we've had a chance to win it. And on the day, sometimes we haven't been good enough to win it, but I think that just shows the quality of the league this season. Every game is super competitive, and anyone can beat anyone.
How much are you looking forward to? I guess I was just saying earlier, I mean, this does feel a bit like the running, even though you've got that kind of big gap before the end of the season.
Yeah, look, you know what? There's 5 games left for us now. The marathon is sort of coming to a close, as it were, and it's, you know, that kind of last dash to the finish. So, look, it's making sure you don't get too ahead of yourselves. Ultimately, it's just take each. I know it's cliche. You have to take each game as it comes, because if we worry too much about what if this happens and what if this happens, ultimately, you've just got to control what you can control, and that's we go out there, we perform at the weekend, and if we perform well enough, then you hope that you get the result. And if Saracens are better on the day, then you go away, you reflect, and then you just focus on the week after. And it's just not getting too ahead of yourself, I think, is the real key with this sort of this sprint to the finish.
Nice to see you. Good luck, Ross.
Thanks, Andy.
Jenny, all yours.
Hi Ross, how are you?
Hey Jenny, good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, really well, thank you.
Good.
I was just wanting to pick up on that when you spoke about the leadership group. Who do you see as a leadership group within Quins, and I guess has any have any players kind of come through this season into that group as well?
Yeah, I think it's something that's evolved throughout the season. You obviously have your natural leaders in Jade, Lucy, Langy. Look, an injury to like a Sarah Bonner has probably hit that leadership group quite early. Someone that's been around the group for a very long time, an excellent performer, international experience really helps. And I think losing her to injury, losing Langy to injury were two kind of really big hits for us in that space. So it does naturally leave a void where people need to step in, I think. And then you look at the likes of, Ella Cromack at fly half is still, a kid really, and you're asking someone to come in and develop as not only their own game, but go, right, you've got to do all the play calling and kick at the right times and show leadership in a different way. So I think that's something that we've worked on as a group, is actually how do we promote leadership, one within the young group, but also making sure that we give opportunities like of Aoife and Lee, Alex Callender have really stepped up in that space, with several others as well. And I think it's something that is almost it's really, really important, because when it comes to those crunch games and those big decisions, ultimately they're out there making them. So it's important that we've spoken about it, and also developed it, and it's not just going to happen in a really close game. We have to practice it as well.
Definitely. I guess also where you've had a week off, what's it like when you come back to training? Because I guess everyone's a bit more relaxed, they feel a bit refreshed. What's the kind of atmosphere like, and how do you also kick into gear as well? Because, this next stage of the season is really important too.
Yeah, I think it's just important that everyone gets some time away to sort of switch off and reflect, and some people will just shut down for a week and they'll need that re-energising, and some people will want to go away and think about their game or think about their coaching philosophy or whatever that might be. So it's good to sort of have that time to be able to reset, and then when you come back in, it's about, right, okay, we're realigning, how do we achieve what we want to achieve, how do we move forward, and make sure that we just connect up as a group. That's probably the biggest thing, is just making sure that we try and get all on the same page as quickly as possible.
And then obviously the last time you guys played Saracens was round 2, and we've heard about how the group's grown and stuff like that, but in terms of how that match went, it kind of felt like there weren't that many answers to kind of Sarries, how they played out wide or defensively. So kind of how do you reverse that, and how are you looking to put in a better performance this weekend?
Yeah, look, I think Saracens' power game is really, really strong, and they are able to attack the edges so effectively because they just win collisions down the middle of the field with their ball carriers, which makes it extremely difficult. If you get quick ball down the middle, it's almost like we focus on the edge, and the edge really struggling, say, defensively, or looking really good in attack, but it's all the work that's done down the middle of the field which allows that contest on the edge to either succeed or fail. So look, you have to really respect that, what Saracens have done, and we know the challenge that's coming with that. And I think, look, again, their set piece is strong around their scrum and maul. So there's certain areas you look at and go, well, look, that's a real strength of theirs. How are we going to counteract that, and how are we going to, create our own opportunities within that as well? And I think, it's going to be an exciting game, and they played well, and hopefully the weather holds out, and it's not as one-pass rugby as it has been in the last couple of weeks.
Wait, you haven't enjoyed that?
Not as much.
No, we're looking forward to it. Thanks very much for your time, Ross.
Thank you.
Helen, all yours.
Hi Ross, how are you?
Hey Helen, good, thanks. How are you?
Super duper. So the game of yours that I've enjoyed most since the break was at Trailfinders, and it showed me, I think, different qualities that you've got as a team. Would you agree?
Definitely. I think that's probably been the pleasing thing for me in this block, and I know we didn't beat Sale, but I think we showed some real maturity at how we managed that game. I think ultimately the kind of the determining factor was how well Holly managed that game in the first half. However, I felt like Ella Cromack at 10 and Emma Swords, who came into the side to start late with Lucy Packer being out, I thought really grew into how they controlled the game. And as I said, we were 2 metres and 3 minutes away from winning that game. And obviously you look at the result and go, oh, we lost that fixture. But I was 100% agree. I think we've shown real growth and real discipline this season to go, when the weather isn't quite playing ball, unfortunately we can't necessarily play the brand that we're known for and move the ball in high octane stuff because it's just so difficult. And I think that was the really pleasing thing around the Ealing game is we kicked really well, we chased really well, which isn't a natural thing you say when it comes to Harlequins. And we were really effective when we got our opportunities in the 22. And I think that's been a story. And it was probably the same against Exeter. And it was the same against Gloucester. Like, we actually kicked really well, which created opportunities for us then to get back in the game, which again is something that we've been working on in the background because we knew the weather was going to be difficult, that we want to have this all-court game where you can kick, you can run, you can stick it up the jumper, you can play wide. It's important that you can use the tools at your disposal when you need them. And I think that's probably the thing that stuck out to me in this block. We haven't necessarily always got the results, but it's got us really close in a contest that we go, actually, we need to do this now. And that was probably the thing around the Ealing game that was really, really pleasing.
And the last one for me is, you mentioned kind of like other people coming in and out with the whole squad. And I wonder if you think this is the kind of match that might be won off the bench, where this is where Gloucester have won a lot of their games, where they've been tight and they suddenly just, like against you, when you were at home to them, it was really level. And then they brought on people like Zoe off the bench and she just won every line out from there on. And I wonder if it's going to be a similar thing where if you've got the strength on the bench, that might just out Saracens.
Yeah, it's definitely a factor. Like, look, the game is so attritional, particularly in that pack, that, you start to get to the 50, 60 minute mark and naturally you're getting tired, because you're defending mauls, scrummaging, line-outs, collisions. And look, it was probably the same at Gloucester away. The luxury of position of Gloucester at the moment, Tuipulotu starts and they bring more Muir off the bench. Probably turn the tide even more in their favour. I thought they both had excellent games, and it's really hard to stop when the level of performance never dips but actually increases, because as fatigue sets in, you bring on a fresh pair of legs and suddenly it goes to another level when you're starting to fatigue. So the bench is always critical in 80-minute performances because it's just unrealistic that the group is going to go 80 minutes at a sustained performance, and you need to have fresh legs that are going to bring loads of impact off the bench.